Joy.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
We're gonna change that music real quick. How about this? This sounds very Irish. Oh, three in Bethlehem, and what were in the ships? All three in Bethlehem in the morning. Oh, they sailed into Bethlehem, the ships, all three. Okay, Sally, I'll stop singing. It's cool. It's cool. You know, Sting has a version of this song that I actually quite like. And I think it's on like the Oh Christmas album or whatever. So let me stop this. Stop singing. There we go. All right. That was the free stuff that you have through YouTube, actually. So if you're wondering where that music came from, it comes from the audio library, actually. So there's that. So anyway, I was going to do some more reviews of kind of similar of what I was doing before, which is reviewing LGBTQ issues and various zebra stop singing and various church sites and also conservative evangelical or conservative religious folks sites and kind of engage with them. I was going to start off with Jennifer Knapp here, and I found this interview here, and I'm just going to link it actually. I link it at a couple of places. I'm going to add it to my, after I'm done, I'm going to add this to this. Actually, I could do it right now. Save changes. I should be able to add it right here as well. This movie is from Imagine Me and You. And do you remember Cersei from Game of Thrones? The girl that you can't see so well is actually Cersei from Game of Thrones. So before she was this evil wench, she was in several movies, and this was one of them. Imagine Me and You is a good movie because a lot of lesbian movies end really tragically. Usually somebody kills themselves. Like that's like a real serious trope in lesbian movies. And Imagine Me and You was originally written for a straight couple, and then they decided let's turn it on its head and flip it as to lesbians that fall in love. And once they did that, it kind of broke a weird trend. It followed a typical rom-com in some ways, but what it did is it broke this trend of I'm a lesbian, therefore I need to kill myself. Like there is this serious trend in LGBTQ movies, particularly for women that veer that way. And so it kind of broke that. I would say this came out. Gosh, I'm just gonna make a guess. 2000. Lena Headey, thank you. Lena Headey's hot, man. I'm telling you. Uh, this came out like a 2004, I want to say, and it kind of broke the trend. My dog's barking. Stand by. We're gonna take a commercial break. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah. Bark alert. Bark alert. This is an open hangout. I'm going to be doing reviews, Wild Heart. So it's not an open hangout this time. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, Imagine Me and You. So anyway, I was going to show, if I can remember how to screen share. Let's see here. So before I had showed the interview with Jennifer Knapp, and how she came out, and then how she was confronted by two pastors, and what a big ordeal that was. And so this is sort of after the aftermath of this, and she's chit chatting at a film festival. And then the channel actually linked in chat, I believe, is this Shay Kern's channel. Um, and no traffic whatsoever, 27 subscribers, which is really low.
About the wide range of experiences that they've had in that regard, and the results has been overwhelmingly positive. So I can't believe it, because I really thought it would be really hard, maybe for a couple years. Nothing. I mean, if I want to go dig up mud right now, all I have to do is turn on my computer and Google my name.
Right.
But or Google gay Christian, and you can. Fortunately, Gay Christian Network is the one that comes up at the top. But I mean, you get into the blogs world, and for the anonymous faces who don't have to be held accountable for what they say, you get what you expect. But out on the street, when I think when you start to build normal relationships with people, it's been beautiful. It's been one of the most profound experiences that I never expected to have.
She's bringing up the point that some of the most vicious feedback that she's had since she's come out has been from folks that are, faceless, nameless, screen warriors, or keyboard warriors, as you say. Um, it's interesting how that works. Some of our most aggressive folks that you see, particularly Christians that are aggressive in this way, are online, and in person. Sometimes you're just forced to humanize each other, and that is a key element that online is missing for a lot of folks.
And I'm sure you get asked a lot about like how Christians respond, but how is the queer community? Have you had a lot of interactions with like even secular queer folks that?
Yeah, I've done a bit. You know what happens is so many people turn it to a faith conversation so quickly. I mean, now just went and did Nashville Pride, which is kind of like my hometown right now, where I live in Nashville. And as soon as people come up, and as soon as people identify in any way spiritually at all, it just comes out. Even in secular environments or in bars, or people who have never talked to me before, have no idea of my history with faith-based music. Oh my gosh, it's so on the surface for them, or at least for the people that come up and talk to me. They're so excited about it. I mean, they either like the music and they just come up and say hey, or that's the next emotional thing that comes out. Is everybody's had some experience of shame, even if they haven't even grown up in the church. I mean, straight people have it too. I mean, sexuality and shame comes from this really deep place in America of somewhere tied to the religious, of having shame over our bodies and what we do and how we behave.
Yeah, there is like a purity culture thing that has had a heavy root in American society. And I mean, you got to think like some of our early founding uh, uh, not necessarily fathers, because a lot of our fathers were deists, but some of our early founding folks were Puritan, and that effect has resounded throughout, generations. If you think that a generation can affect another, I mean, all you have to do is start looking at history, and you'll see that there's sort of like a domino effect of how these ideas kind of really ground and pass over, how they progress really slowly, things like that. Um, so yeah, in the 90s too, there was like this purity culture, major, massive push, like really massive, where like they had purity rings, and they were trying to get people to sign off on things. And there was this famous book called I Kiss Dating Goodbye, where like he was shaming people for holding hands and kissing, like just a simple kiss, and it took root. And this was just for heterosexual folks. And so, let alone like if you're stressed out about like heterosexual relationships, you're going to be really stressed out about same-sex relationships with the purity culture stuff. Hey April, hey Willis, hey Titan, hey CJ, hey Big Zebra. Always great to see y'all. Um, can I get them? Amen. Amen, sister. Power, 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 power. Anyway, this is Jennifer Knapp. You meant if you had seen like my other similar review, I was interviewing I was reviewing an interview with her earlier, so this is another one.
So yeah, the queer community is. I mean, I'm learning about it. I didn't grow up in it. I spent most of my time in Australia and the understanding the culture. I think I went to my first lesbian bar a couple months ago, and I was scared to death. I had no idea what was going to happen.
Side note here, due to the pandemic and due to changing social norms, there are only 21 lesbian bars in the United States. Only 21. One of them is in San Diego. That's not a lot. I just want you to know that this number is dwindling quickly, and it's weird. And there's even news articles about that. It's fascinating. Just a side note. So if somebody is looking to connect in that way and in that space, those spaces are actually dwindling, which is odd. Now I think part of that is the hyper focus on online, swipe left, swipe right, kind of stuff. But it's this weird side effect of those spaces vanishing, and I guess maybe people are just more online focused. I don't know.
I'm like, this is so weird. I'm a lesbian. Aren't I supposed to fit in? Why do I feel alienated? But I mean, it's just a normal place. I mean, people are normal people. And I think sometimes you spend all that time listening to what you think the queer community is going to be like because you always see the fantastic. But there's a really normal life and culture and real issues going on underneath that you would expect in any community. So I've loved the people I've got to meet. I've got to learn a lot about myself as well and a lot to on I don't know. I feel like so much of my time lately has been learning more and more and more about what it means to be LGBTQ, RIST, whatever. And what's fun is to realize most of us are less attached to the letters and more attached to community and just getting to know people through the unique process that we've had.
It's true. Like some of the most, here's what's kind of weird. There are some very aggressive spaces online in LGBTQ communities where they're just like, if you don't say the right things, like people are looking to be like, sometimes it feels like virtue signaling or to attack or to kind of do ping pong battle back and forth. But in person, some of the safest, friendliest places I've ever been have been in those spaces. So it's kind of interesting how you'll see the variance there between online and in person. Um, let's see. Zebra has a question. Let's see. Zebra says, "What is that behind her ear? Is that a feather?" Let me look at this because I have a better view. One second here. Mm, it kind of does look like a feather, but it's really hard for me to tell because the pixelation is pretty rough. She's at a festival, and I think it's in the South here. So let's see here. Is there a name for a type of lass who's straight but is found attractive by gay lads and bisexual women? Because hi, I'm Willis. I don't know. I don't know what you'd call that.
Yeah.
What do you think that queer sexuality and spirituality has to teach to the straight church?
One of the things that kind of keeps popping up for me over the last couple of years and getting involved in this conversation is that it's so blatant. It's such an obvious conversation in an environment, especially in communities of faith, where we just don't talk about sex. I mean, gay, straight, or otherwise, you just don't. You imagine, I'll go into a church and have a talk, and I go, okay, let's talk about sex, and you watch everybody go. They just completely get rigid and not in the best kind of way.
Don't be
Sorry,
talking.
that's a dirty joke.
Rigid. Oh my!
Yeah, so
I just saw what you did there.
It's an environment where we're not comfortable, as I think, and especially as culturally as Americans, it's really difficult for us to just talk about vulnerably about how interconnected our sexuality is with our spirituality. I mean, how I love my partner is a spiritual event, and to be able to join what seems to be the totally profane with the sacred is kind of this narrative that we've woven ourselves. So it's been, I think, one of the things about the.
Here, what's interesting is like we have called, yeah, that's a phrase that I've heard before, and I know that Derek Webb's explored this and many others, and it's the calling what's sacred, profane, what's good, bad, and generally sexuality can be really healthy and really great. And we have really made it very stressful event in the church sections, at least. Um, I went to a gay bar every weekend and helped with makeup and bourbon. I hope you got free bourbon. I bet you did. I bet you did. Connection is unstable. So just so you know, it says my connection's unstable. If I'm really laggy, let me know in chat and give me a heads up. That just happened. Here we go. I'm going down. I'm going down. Give me a second here. We should be stable, but it's saying I'm not, and I'm trying to figure out why that might be. That's odd because I am. There we go. There we go. Whatever that hiccup is, it's good now. So yeah, it was giving me a little warning sign. It's like you're unstable. I was like, oh gosh, I'm medicated. What's happening? This gig. Kind of. Anyway. So let's see. Let's listen to more of Jennifer Knapp because I lost my place and got distracted by StreamYard yelling at me.
Queer community bringing this up in environments of faith and not letting it go is persistence to say, I do identify. And in a lot of ways, I've met other heterosexuals that are starting to open up and just say, I am willing to identify how much my spirituality and my sexuality kind of intertwine. They're deeply emotional, they're deeply rooted somewhere in my body. How do I begin to kind of unlock that? So that's one of the things that I think is really fantastic, that the further we get into talking about our own identities and ourselves, the less you realize that I think the queer identity over the top of it actually pales in comparison. It might be the moral for the moment, like the moral of the story, the Aesop's fable kind of narrative that you get for the moment. But I think as that becomes more common and we actually begin to like realize it's not the whole subject, we start to realize actually how common we are and how complex all of this is in a spiritual community. And all I think a lot of the reason why people continue to be gravitated to a faith community to be able to discuss those reasons and issues.
What's something that you have not gotten asked that you want to talk about that you wish people?
You know, I think one of the I think, to be honest, I think one of the things that I do get frustrated about is being recognized as a person of faith or being recognized as a gay person of faith, always thinking that the conversation is a gay faith conversation. I think it's more the structure of it that sometimes gets frustrating. Like instantly getting asked, anytime I get asked a question that is far more global in its reach, I get really excited to be able to go past that. But I mean, I think to try and get to a point of it, I think.
Well, what's interesting too, I mean, when you first come out like that, like people are going to have a lot of questions because it's been forbidden in so many places, and so they're wanting to know how are you balancing this? How are you balancing this idea of spirituality, you know, follower of Christ, all these things, and still being gay or bisexual or lesbian? And these are all fair questions. The problem is I think for somebody like Jennifer is that there's just not enough people talking about it. It's like almost like um, if you're LGBTQ, like the default is you have to be atheist, right? Like that's the default that many people have, or they feel forced into. But what's interesting is more and more people I talk to, people are still identifying as Christian or still identifying as Catholic, and really like in person there's very little pushback. It's more like, you know, if you jump into the church and say it, or if you go online and say it, that's when you're getting that more aggressive pushback. So let's see, all those weekends in the gay bar. Honestly, I feel safer in those areas. Like, if you told me if I was to go to a heterosexual bar or a gay bar, I have always felt safer in queer spaces, like always. And so I don't know what it is. let's see here. We go to gay clubs because gay bashings were a thing. Us girls used to form a circle around gay men being targeted. Wow. Yeah, yeah. It is sometimes like for whatever reason, men particularly are targeted more than any other. Well, I'm gonna qualify that. Trans women are targeted probably the most, and then maybe gay men, and then it kind of goes down the line. So yeah, it's awful.
Think the commonality I'm waiting to see people have happen is to have it not be all wrapped up in my sexuality. My journey is not about that. I mean, I love my art. I love my faith and how it intersects. I love how occasionally I can make a joke about my sexuality. But one of the things I often say, and I think that most of us do, is we don't get up in the most of us don't get up in the morning on a normal day, look in the mirror and go, I am. I don't get up and go, oh my gosh, I'm a woman. Let me own it. I don't get up and go, oh my gosh, I'm a lesbian. Let me own it. Oh my gosh, I'm a Christian. Let me own it. And spend my day putting on those clothes. You're halfway through your day and something comes up and you go, oh yeah, that's right. And I think that's one of the things we miss. I think it's important to talk all this conversation that we have about faith, about queer identity in society and how we are and we aren't accepted. They're valuable and they have to keep going. And the more people claim their own identity in that, the more that we have an open dialogue. But it's like the catch-22 of it. All we do is talk about it, and then people get the idea of the stereotypes that that's all people are and that's all they're made of. If you're a lesbian and identify as lesbian and talk about lesbianism all the time, I'm missing a core part of your experience and who you are.
That's true. It's not the end all be all of where your personality stops, where your interest stops, where your passions stop, what you are about. It's one part of you. And it's an important part, but it is one part of you. And that is one of the things that I feel like sort of gets magnified online is if you have a focus on an issue, like I'm talking about this issue too, it's like it is one of the flags that I now fly, not to be punny, but where like this is one component of my identity and not the entirety of my identity. And it is frustrating because we are several things to a lot of people. When you ask who you are, you're a lot of things. You're a lot of feelings. You're a lot of thoughts. But what's interesting is not all your thoughts are necessarily who you are. And then, are you what you do? Well, you do a lot of things. You might be a mother. You might be a sister. You might be an aunt. You might be a boss. You might be an employee. You might be all sorts of things. And it's just this is just one more component of who you are. But that being said, it is important to have these conversations, and particularly for people that are religious or in the church or spiritual, having these conversations is important because honestly, there are people that kill themselves over this shit. Like there are people that are just so distressed and so yanked between two different worlds that they can't seem to make it work and they just despair, and this is still an ongoing problem and it's still important to have these conversations. So when somebody who is spiritual and they're not necessarily team atheists but they still manage to walk the line, yeah, people want to know how do you make it work. And so it's one of those things. Lesbian porn is the best porn, or prawn, I don't know, it says prawn. So it's definitely weird for Sydney. So I don't know the politics of Australia well, but it looks like Jennifer Knapp did spend quite a lot of time in Australia for a while because when yeah, so I don't know the atmosphere there. I know that there was sort of a wave of Assemblies of God and Hillsong kind of revival in the Christian circles, but like I have no idea like as far as like the stress level of LGBTQ, if it's the same as it is in the States. I really don't know.
What do you like to read? Who are you inspired by? What's your family like? Tell me about where you grew up. All of those things that make us up. And I think we don't always have time for that because we're trying to get the soundbite and do the video. But every time that happens, it feels to me that feels like more of a victory over all the time that we spent talking about the little headlines and the bullet points.
You see your music heading, you've had this kind of trajectory of doing the Christian music scene and now doing something a little bit different, although still very much informed by your faith. Where do you see that kind of heading? Do you still want to be in the Christian music scene?
I have no idea is there a scene anymore? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not there. That's not an insult to anyone in it. No, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I'm so excited right now of just creating music.
Yeah.
I'm for a long time I was in an environment where every time I sit down to write music, I'm writing it because I know I'm having to deliver a specific context to a specific community. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I'm done doing that. I'm ready to sit down and write whatever comes out and go. I will honestly go anywhere that anyone asks me to go. So like for this festival right here, you get in the public thing like, oh my gosh, I don't want people to think I'm a Christian artist. I really, really don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes sense for me to play some of my music here just as much as it makes sense for me to go play a secular pride event just as much as.
One of the things that's interesting too is if you are a Christian music artist, the immense pressure to just sing basically adjusted worship songs or songs that sound romantic but they're to Jesus is enormous. It's really, really funny. And it's like, you're singing about the Bible and God and everything, but there's other things in life and other interests that these same Christians have, and these same artists, and they are stuck. So, like, I don't blame some of these Christian artists for making the jump from Christian music, because honestly, Christian music scene, we can review that stuff another time, is really hilarious. But also, like, making the jump out of that and jumping into the secular scene, it gives you a freedom to write about whatever you want. As a secular artist, you could write spiritual things and be okay here and there. You also can write about whatever you want, and that's what's different. Yeah, this is Jennifer Knapp. She was a pretty uh, large Christian music singer in the 90s, and she was the interview that I was watching last time I was live talking about this stuff. So yeah. And when she came out, she was like live on Larry King, and she was getting like attacked from both sides from two different pastors. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Jerry Springer almost. That was insane.
It makes sense for me to go play a bar where nobody gives a shit about either one of them. So,
Oh no,
that's
she
the fun,
said shit.
that's the
Oh
fun thing
no,
about
pull
when
her
you
off the
open up that
bookshelf.
door as an artist to just be genuine about the art that comes out and not necessarily writing it for an end purpose to try and convince people of a path that they should be on. Just kind of living life and doing it. So that's a terrible answer if you want to have a career. You're supposed to want to market yourself. But if I can be completely honest, I really don't care. I just want to be able to play my music and have these kinds of conversations everywhere I go and create community with it. And to me, that's all I ever wanted to do. And it's been a long road in getting to that, not just having attenuated conversations and trying to, I was never really satisfied in doing music that said, I'm trying to convince you to be a Christian. And I'm so bored of people thinking, now I'm trying to convince you to be gay and be a Christian. With my music, that's not what it's about. It's about opening up the doors to whatever it is that music makes you identify with. And if that helps
You mean, Jennifer, you're not evangelical gay?
you identify in a queer kind of way, I'm over the moon. And if it helps you identify in an overtly Christian way, then I'm over the moon. And if it helps you get rid of either one of them, I'm even happy. It's about creating that music for you to be able to use a gift and grow. I mean, all the music that I love and I listen to really adds something to me deep in my soul and in my spirit, and it's not necessarily sacred. Sometimes it's extraordinarily profane. So
yeah. How has it felt as an artist to finally be able to kind of just write from the core of who you are as opposed to this marketing thing?
Overwhelmingly awesome and completely terrifying because I do want to have a career in it,
Yeah.
I do love it, and at some point you kind of want your music to make a connection with other people, but you also have to, for it to be genuine, I think you have to kind of write from a selfish place. You have to go to those places where you're self-indulgent and you don't really care about what the end result is. You just get it, you purge, and you just get it out. And so the other side of it's really terrifying, because the end result is you do actually want to share that, and it's really exciting to be able to do it. So it's been a really scary journey, because I'm finding out backwards that even though I might have found writing faith-based music and always sitting down to write a faith-based piece of music, it actually in its way was safe, because I knew what the expectation was for me every time I sat down. And if I didn't ultimately have an idea scratched out, I always had the guideline and the end result. I mean, Jesus is Jesus, and the message is kind of always the same.
It's interesting there, because like I've heard this before from folks that are in the music industry for Christian music, that they get stuck in a rut and they're like, I'm so limited in what I can write about. Like I can make it look different. And then when somebody does write something different, there's a song that goes, He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane, I'm like a tree bending beneath the weight of his mercy. And then he says this other line, and it turned into this massive church drama. And um, he says, and I can't remember the artist, I'm gonna have to look it up, but he says this line, and like people went nuts, like the James White, pastors, the Calvinists and stuff. Oh my gosh. He says, let me see. He is jealous for me. Well, I can't remember exactly, but it goes, he bends over like a sloppy wet kiss, and oh my gosh, so much drama over the sloppy wet kiss line. They're like, wait a minute, what are you singing about? Just stop. And this was like a Sunday morning song, but like every so often, like a writer will write a line, and because of like the poetry that they're writing and the imagery it brings up, every so often there's like a little bit of church drama for these Christian artists. They're like, wait a minute, we can't sing that. And then you see people rewriting the line. There's always like a redacted line, big, redacted. So it's kind of funny. That's some white people gospel music there. Definitely, yeah.
So you can kind of rely on that. To have the world open up to you and not know how you're going to conclude it is horrifyingly scary as well as liberating. So.
All right, and then I'll link that interview here. But this is not a very well-traveled channel here. So Matthew Beams, I guess, is the one that did the interview, and then the channel that I found it on was on this one here. So that's Jennifer Knapp. And even now, like she's doing music, she's still traveling, goes to festivals. She's not like a huge like music star, but she does okay, and she has like her own like circuit that she does. And it's kind of good to see that she's still managing and successful. And so I wanted to show that because there was some drama on the other one where I showed where it was like she comes out and then it's like the pastors are like raptors attacking her, and it's like this is intense. Yeah, it is. But she handled it with grace in that video, and it's kind of interesting. So now, right now I have, for some reason my notifications up. I have my favorite here, the progressive pastor says, okay. So this is I'm all over the place today. I need to calm down. Breathe. So this is the Daily Disciple, and the Daily Disciple is that guy that I keep watching who really has a problem with progressive Christians, particularly. So I'm gonna watch this response here. He's the guy with all the merch. Yeah, he's got like lots of merch, guys, on a Patreon because it's hard making videos here. You gotta support, plant your seeds. Anyway, here we go.
This progressive pastor is off the rails.
He's off the rails.
This man is teaching lies in order to get approval, but I don't think it's loving to compromise the truth simply to get other people's praise. Here's my message to you. Regardless of whether you're same-sex attracted or opposite-sex attracted, we are called in the Bible to put to death who we once were. It's not about singling.
I am so sure that heterosexuals are putting to death who they are. That sounds right.
Gay people or people within the LGBTQ community, it's about recognizing that we are all broken people and in need of saving. Just because something feels natural doesn't mean that it's good. I may want to look at pornography or sleep with my girlfriend, but that doesn't make it good. At the end of the day, we need to come back to God's word to learn his intent for sexual expression. We learn in the Garden of Eden that men and women were created for each other with different roles and yet created equally in the image of God. That man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. All other distortions of sexuality will lead to death. Let me be clear, simply coming to Christ doesn't mean that your temptations are going to be gone overnight, or that your sexual proclivities will change overnight. But it's not your orientation that saves you. It's Jesus that saves you. We're all going to be tempted in different ways, but today God is welcoming you into a better way forward, into his light, into his life. Only through him can we.
So it's kind of interesting with this. The offending thing in the beginning is pay attention carefully. LGBTQ plus is a gift of God. And then there's like a helpful Bible study link there. This is the offending thing that's caused this little video here. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. So this guy here is talking about like we need to die to ourselves and that we're sinners and like it doesn't matter that you're gay or straight. We're all super, super sinners. And 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 then he talks about putting to death yourself, your old self. But the thing is that heterosexuals have sort of a an advantage there. You see, like there might be like in this conservative, you know, purity culture kind of mindset, there might be hope for, marriage later on or, something like that. For the homosexual, there is no hope. It's either abstain or act straight. Those are your two choices. And that's what he's missing is he's saying take out and cut out this one component of who you are and just pretend like it's not there or kill it. So Maya says this is such an obnoxious talking point. God needs to stop creating his own problems. Well, that's the thing. Like these people act like it's like a big old choice. Like people just sit down and they go, I would much rather tackle the quarterbacks on the field and off the field because it's so much easier to be a gay football player, right? Like they think that like people sit around and make these choices like just rationally. This is what they do, and it's just so frustrating. Why would a DD create sorry pastors? Yeah, well, the excuse that they'll give is that we were in a fallen world and this is not how it was from the start. But then after, Satan, took over, then this is how it is. And it just doesn't seem like it comports with reality, right? But like, that's the way they talk.
This man is teaching lies in order to get approval, but I don't think it.
So when he says this man's teaching lies in order to get approval, I have to point this out that I hear this from every conservative Christian when they find a progressive Christian. So they go, you want to get approval, so you're going to take a lie. You want society's approval, so you're going to lie. Here's the thing. You get so much disapproval, and it's so much not to your advantage in church to come forth and support LGBTQ folks. So much not to your advantage that if you were a pastor, you will start to get stonewalled out of ecumenical events. So, like your city has a big, even a big city like mine. I live in San Diego. I would watch people get stonewalled out of events in big cities with quote unquote moderate ish, pastors. These aren't the Steven Anderson aggressive Matt Powell types. These are the moderate ones, sort of like this guy. It's like, you know, I love um, I love the person, just not the sin kind of folks, right? These guys, where Matt Powell's like you're evil. You should be you know, uh, abolished, or he should be you know thrown in jail or whatever. Those guys are like real extreme. These are the moderates, right? Their reaction to anybody that speaks out for anything that's progressive is to just stonewall them out. So if this guy's seeking approval, to what advantage? What advantage is it really, truly?
Is loving to compromise the truth simply to get other people's praise. Here's my message to you. Regardless of whether you're same-sex attracted or opposite sex attracted, we are called in the Bible to put to death who we once were. It's
So again, that is not what heterosexuals do at all. All heterosexuals do is put a hold on what they would like to do physically, and please hold. And then they hope that they win the lottery and they find a compatible partner and that they marry, which may or may not happen. And 50% of them end up divorced anyway. Ta-da! Shocker.
It's not about singling out gay people or people within the LGBTQ community. It's about recognizing that we are all broken people and in need of saving. Just because something feels natural doesn't mean that it's good. I may want to look at pornography or sleep with my girlfriend, but that doesn't make it good. At the end of the day, we need to come back to God's word to learn his intent for sexual expression. We learn in the Garden of Eden that men and women were created for each other with different roles and yet created.
Okay, something that he's giving away here that you might not notice, but I notice, is he says men and women are given different roles. That tells me and hints to me that he's a complementarian, that he actually believes that men are the head of the church, or head of the church, head of the house. Men have, like, the role of protector. Women are supposed to be the nurturers, the homemakers, stay in kitchen with the kids, all that. I already can have the sense that he's a complementarian. So women can't be pastors, I'm guessing. He's already hinting towards that. So he has these little tells that, like he says things like that tell me what his theology is. Just in a minute.
Equally in the image of God, that man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. All other distortions of sexuality will lead to death. Let me be clear, simply coming to Christ doesn't mean that your temptations are going to be gone overnight, or that your sexual proclivities will change overnight, but it's not your orientation that saves you. It's Jesus that saves you. We're all going to be tempted.
Yeah, but I mean, would you admit, daily disciple, or Seth, or whatever your name is? I think his name's Seth. He looks like a Seth. Wouldn't you admit that it would be, I don't know, is it easier road the rock for a heterosexual in your roadmap that you're drawing here? I mean, wouldn't that be pretty much a given? That would be a lot easier, yeah?
In different ways, but today God is welcoming you into a better way forward, into his light, into his life. Only through him can we step into who we were truly created to be. Follow for more Christ-centered content and help support my ministry on Patreon. This progressive
Pardon me, I had to cough. I tried to mute in time. So follow me on Patreon. Bum, bum, bum. And you'll get all the loots. All the loots. Okay. So daily disciple. You make it sound so easy, but really, my goodness. It's so like clueless. So this is common. What he's saying is common stuff that I've heard of over and over again. So like this way of being like, you just carry your cross and put put to death your desires. It's just so easy. Yeah, it's easy, huh? Yeah, I'm so sure. All right, so let me see. Next on the playlist, let's see here. Can a homosexual be a Christian? Now, this one I haven't. Daily Disciple I've seen before. This guy I haven't seen before. So you just type in like terms like gay Christian and you come up with folks like this guy. Um, apparently he has an opinion on the matter, so we're gonna watch it.
Hey
Alan
everyone, my name is
Parr.
Alan Parr. Thank you all so much for tuning into The Beat. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about helping people like
He has the obligatory I am a pastor evangelical like apologist bookshelf in the back here. So I'm just going to take a peek real quick and see what his books are in the background. I'm going to really laugh if one of his books are in the background because, that's always kind of funny. Hide your desires until you die because Jesus. Exactly. That's how it works, CJ. Come on. Hide who you are and your desires because reasons. Yep. Let me see here. So let's see. God, good and great. I can't make this out. Looks like he's got some commentaries and he's got like, I bet to the far left in orange, I bet that's R.C. Sproul. I bet you anything. And then on the bottom in the blue, that is definitely commentaries for specific books of the Bible. And on the top, there's more commentaries. But the ones in the middle, I was hoping I could see, but I can't. They're obviously like your life application officer. They're obviously like Christian living books, but I can't tell which ones they are. So I don't know if they're focused on the family or what. So we're just gonna move on.
You grow spiritually by giving you truth, training, and teaching from the Word
What
of
is
God. Well,
truth?
let me just
Says
start off
Pilate.
by saying that I've got a whole lot to say about this subject. This question has come up a lot in the chat on YouTube. People have had questions about this. So I just want to take a few moments to address it. Now, let me just start with the biggest issue that I have within Christianity today in general. And the biggest issue that I have is that we have two groups of Christians that are on opposite extremes, and both of the extremes are
Extremes. Oh
really
no.
destructive to the Christian faith. You have, on one hand, you have this extreme group of Christians who are very, very judgmental, and they really don't care about showing people the love of Jesus Christ. They just want to just judge people and look down on people. And it's a miracle that anybody comes to the Christian faith as a result of interacting with this group of Christians, because
I think he's referring to the F's go to hell like crowd, like like those signs used to say, or uh, you know, Steven Anderson, Matthew Powell, F should be put to death, things like that. Remember those bigoted remarks that they would make. I'm assuming those are the extreme Christians, but then if you look at some of what the moderate Christians say, it's like not so great either, but it's still at least better. So like for instance, the Daily Disciple that we just watched would be more moderate and more common, um, but still on that conservative side. But at least they're not throwing rocks at you, right?
they're just so negative and judgmental, and they do more harm and damage to the Christian faith than anything else. But on the other extreme, we also have this other group of Christians that are just simply going along with what the society says, what the culture says, what the surroundings are saying. And they're saying, well, you know what? Because homosexuality is prevalent in our culture, it's an alternative lifestyle. You know what? You should have the right to be whoever you are. I have equal, if not more, issues with that group because they're too afraid to take a stand for what the Bible says.
Oh, so progressives are more upsetting to you than let's round them up and Leviticus style them, right? Like it's the progressives that are really more. I have more problems with them because they don't make a stand. Actually, they're making a stand, and it's almost against their own interests because people like you.
So, with that being said, let's take a look at what the Bible actually says about this topic. Okay, so the first passage of scripture we're going to go to is the one that many homosexuals love to point to whenever they are talking about Christians and what Christians can and cannot do in reference to judging them. Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 7, it says, "Do not judge, so you will not be judged." So, first of all, they say, you know what? Jesus himself, it's right here, it says it in red, that you do not have the right to judge me. Then it goes on to say, "For in the way that you judge, you will be judged, and by the standard of measure, it will be measured to you." So basically, what Jesus is saying here is that the same way that you judge other people, as hard as you are on them, whether you're homosexual or heterosexual, then that is the same measure of judgment that Jesus is going to use on you. Then it says in verse 3, "Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, your homosexual brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye'?" In other words, hey, you're a homosexual, let me fix you. And behold, there's a log in your own eye. You hypocrite. First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So pay attention, close attention to what Jesus is saying here. He's not saying that we cannot judge anybody ever for anything. He's simply saying when you do judge, this is the correct way in which you should judge, is first of all, take a look at yourself, get the log out of your own eye. Why? So that you can see clearly enough to be able to help somebody else take the speck out of theirs.
Here's the fascinating thing about this. So you have your average Christian then that reads that and goes, okay. So like we'll use Veckel as an example. Veckel and I have had a discussion over this passage actually in depth. And they will be like, listen, as long as I don't have that log in my eye, I can judge you till kingdom come. Like, what? Okay. So there's a couple of things. I think some Christians read this as if I don't have the same problem that you have, meaning I'm heterosexual and you're gay, then I can judge you. But I don't think that's what it's saying. Like it's saying if you see a problem in your brother or sister, right, and in that whatever that you perceive that problem to be, and you've got this giant problem, like you should be worrying about that giant problem that's in you before you start picking on somebody else, right? But like the way that I've seen this bent and twisted in favor of conservative Christians is always like, I don't particularly have your problem, so therefore I can judge you. And it's the most aggravating thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, you have no idea.
So for the homosexual that says that Christians don't have the right to judge them, we actually do have the right to pass judgment, not necessarily on you, but the things that you are doing. And so with that being said, next I want to
I don't hate you. I just hate your sin.
go quickly to a passage of scripture where many heterosexuals will use to justify their right to judge homosexuals. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, it starts by saying, or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals. There it is. Look, it says it right there. The Bible says that homosexuals will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the issue that I have is that you skip past all of these other sins that the Bible says that heterosexuals can commit as well. And notice the very first one on the list is fornication, right? Adulterers, idolaters, thieves, covetous people, drunkards. So people who get drunk all the time, people who lie, people who covet, people who steal. All of those.
I have brought this up so many times, and I'm always fascinated because I will name off the other sins and how that's always been kind of looked past, and they always jump to the one. Um, and I'm always fascinated at the justifications for that. And a lot of times this is in the online debate rooms. This is in the church itself, and he does have a point that there's a lot of people that just skip to the end because I think there's something to be said about like if the issue is only affecting 10% of the population, right? I think at best we have 10% of the population that is LGBTQ, right? Um, well, then likely it's not your problem, right? So it's easier to attack a problem that isn't your problem, and so I think that's some of it. There's like a special focus on what they feel like they're not guilty of, whatever that is. They won't. Let me see here. I'm so sorry. It's loading really slow. There we go. They won't inherit the kingdom of God, not because they're gay, but because it's just fantasy. So this guy is a Paulinian, not a Christian. Yeah, he's probably Paulinian, but at least he's taking a swing at the other side, which is skipping the laundry list of other things and then kind of zooming past. That's been kind of an ongoing problem that we see. Um, I kind of look at it as a sliding scale of bigotry, to be honest. And so, like, he falls somewhere on the spectrum of that, just like the disciple does. But I will take it over Matthew Paul, or not Matthew, what's his name? Powell, Matthew Powell. Sorry, my brain went.
those are in the same category. So how can we as heterosexual Christians say that, you know what, this one sin of homosexuality is so much greater than all the other sins, and therefore because of that, God will not allow them to go to heaven? Okay, now with all of that out of the way, I want to get to what I really want to talk about in this video, and I want to spend the next few moments talking specifically to the homosexual who claims to be Christian, who carries the name of Christianity. There are two major issues that frustrate me so much in this area of homosexuality and Christianity. The first is that many homosexuals will hide behind the idea and say, you know what? Well, this is how I've been born. This is how I am. This is who I am. Well, let's just talk a little bit about what the Bible says about how we were born. Psalm 51 says that we were all born into sin. So if we go the nature route and say, you know what, this is my nature, then what we're basically doing, and this is what frustrates me, is that we are nullifying the very power of the cross, because whenever you are born.
This is an interesting thing. This is really highlighting the insidious nature of, I would say, um, what's the word? Original sin doctrine. So, original sin doctrine was largely hammered out by St. Augustine. And there are other ways to interpret this Christian idea of like, how did sin, enter the world, corruption, evil, grotesque evil, things like that. How did this enter the world if God is good, right? And Christianity attempts to make these answers to that. But then when you deal with like, how does humanity do these horrible things to each other, like, war and murder, things like that, betrayal, things like that, um, thievery. How does man do this? Well, they go, oh, well, man's fallen. He's got this fallen nature. Now there are some theologies like the Orthodox Church, which was part of the first split from the early church, that has a different view. So you have a large chunk of Catholicism, evangelical Christians that have gone the way of original sin. They believe that when Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of good and knowledge, that oh, get a life, mate. When Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, that suddenly sin is now part of human nature and it's like in you. And so like you can't help who you are. Your very nature has this evilness in you. And the Eastern Orthodox Church, which was part of the first schism, a lot of people know about, like, how Protestants left the Catholic Church and Martin Luther. But before that, there was a schism with the Eastern Orthodox Church. And the Eastern Orthodox Church believes that there's sin or evil in the world or corruption in the world, but it isn't who you are, right? And so I wanted to talk about how like there's an insidious nature with original sin doctrine where like you can see right now how he's saying your very nature is evil, my very nature is evil. Not one of us is good. And I see that as a problematic doctrine and how he's using it. So he does look like he's whistling. It's an accident, really. But it would be a really unfortunate screenshot meme. Absolutely unfortunate.
Born once, you may be born with a sin nature, but whenever you become a Christian, you are born again. You're given a new nature. And so this new nature enables you to live above the sinful life that you've had and be able to experience victory over sin. The second problem that I have is that as homosexual Christians, you do not have the right or the free pass to just indulge in all of your sexual desires any more than a heterosexual does. And
Actually, let's talk about that unfair playing field again here. What's your name? Alan. Alan is his name. Alan Parr. Even within marriage, I would venture to say that you would say that it's still a no-go. So, like, it's not even a comparison, Ellen. It's not even a comparison. This whole, like, well, heterosexuals are barred, said, so are homosexuals. So it's like, it's the same problem. You're in the same boat. We suffer the same. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And so you may say, well, this is who I am, so therefore I have the right to express who I am. Well, what if you have a heterosexual person who feels as though, you know what, I have a desire to watch pornography or whatever sexual
It's a really poor analogy. Really poor analogy. Because even within the constructs of your narrow view, heterosexuals still have an outlet.
issues that they are dealing with. It doesn't matter whatever state you find yourself in, whether you are single and you have a desire for sex outside of marriage, or you are married and you have a desire for sex outside of marriage with someone else. The same expectations apply, which is self-control.
That would
You do
not be the
not, as
same
a homosexual
expectations at
Christian, get
all.
a free pass to be able to indulge in everything that you want to do, while the rest of us simply have to struggle and live a life of self-discipline, self-denial, and self-control. So if you are homosexual and you are first and foremost acknowledging that that lifestyle is a sin, you don't promote it, you don't celebrate it, you don't support it, and you are leaning daily on the power that lives within you to
If you're a homosexual and you're self-loathing, closeted, don't talk about it and pretend to be straight or abstain and just, be like, maybe someday I'll find a wife or a husband. You're cool, but everybody else that's like down with the LGBTQ, they are not cool. See, so like just be on the down low. It's fine. It's fine.
exercise the self-control necessary to resist same-sex attraction, well, then I have the utmost respect for you, and I believe that you are saved just as any other heterosexual is. But if you are homosexual and you are hiding behind that, and you're supporting it, and you're going to gay rallies, and you are celebrating it, and you're just saying, this is who I am, then I cannot respect that lifestyle any more than I would respect the lifestyle of a heterosexual who beats up on women, who cheats
Wait,
people
what?
in business,
Wait, what?
or who
Whoa.
has adulterous affairs.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That is a weird comparison. Let's look at this comparison again.
And you're going to gay rallies and you are
If you go to gay rallies and you act all gay,
celebrating it, and you're just saying,
celebration,
this is who I am,
this is who I am.
then I cannot respect that lifestyle any more than I would respect the lifestyle of a heterosexual who beats up on women.
What? Alan. See, this is the problem. Well, there's so many problems, but this whole we are all intrinsically evil, original sin. God hates evil. God is holy. Everything from stealing a cookie to stealing a car is evil. Everything from stolen kiss to the R word is evil. Everything from like this equation of like minor things and major things and all this stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah. And gay rallies are about as kin to, I don't know, beating up your girlfriend. No, no, it's not. One is far worse than the other, even in your framework. Even in your framework, the results are different. Oh my God. This is so like it's frustrating to me because so many evangelicals have the most fucked up threat meter ever. You can tell it by how they vote. You can tell it by like how they order the threats of things. Like I think it was G-Man that said that I was worse than Matt Bell on Tom Rabbit's channel. Matt Bell's in prison for abusing children over the internet. And G-Man said I was worse than him because I supported LGBTQ rights. Another time, lying is worse than child molestation, he said. Like, are you serious? Like, and he's just one of many. He's sort of the result of people like this. Like G-Man's the derp, but this guy's the result. I mean, the derps online that we see, they're the results of people kind of like him that direct them. It's just crazy. Like, yeah. Hold on a second. Who is this guy talking to? I don't think many homosexuals consider themselves a target audience. So again, who the fuck is he talking to? Yeah, I think it's like a warning shot. So like for like all the closeted gays that are like just happen to be watching him, like it's like a warning shot. You come out, this is what happens. kind of thing. CJ says her Jesus loves gays.
Who cheats people in business or who has adulterous affairs on their spouse. So here are my final thoughts on the issue. Can a homosexual be a Christian? Well, certainly they can, as long as they believe
Certainly you can. It's going to be really fucking almost impossible for you.
the same things about Jesus as a heterosexual believes. And my final message to heterosexual Christians is to stop living your life on both of these extremes that I talked about at the beginning of this video, where you're so judgmental or you're so passive about it. And also take a little bit more time and looking at your own life in terms of what sexual sins or whatever sins in general that you need to clean up, instead of pointing the finger at homosexuals. And then my last message to homosexuals is to stop hiding behind this idea that you were born this way, because whenever you gave your life to Jesus Christ, you were born again.
How do I unwind that? Well, one thing I can say from personal I guess anecdote, um, I was pretty sheltered. I mean, really, really sheltered growing up. I was homeschooled. I was not allowed to hang out with neighborhood friends. A lot of the TV that I watched was really old TV, like reruns from like the 60s and stuff like that. So I'm a kid in the 80s that missed a lot of 80s experiences. I wasn't allowed to watch ET. I wasn't allowed to watch Smurfs because Smurfs was apparently satanic. Um, Satanic Panic and stuff. I was homeschooled in a bubble, and I can tell you, in that bubble, within that bubble, with only being allowed to go to church, like occasionally to finally youth group, and then occasionally to choir, and being in such a restrictive bubble, I came out like the blast from the past guy, like in a whole different decade almost. Ta-da! And I came out, and I was like, I probably noticed the same sex attraction. I probably noticed it around 12, middle school age. And then like I would go like to youth group, and I'd be like, they'd be like, hey, um, Deanna's really cute. And I'd be like, oh yeah, Deanna's really cute. Obligatory, like, yeah, I agree. Like totally not, like whatever. Didn't know that about myself, like that, like completely, until high school. And then I was like, okay, this is a thing. What is this thing? And I was pretty sheltered, like really, really sheltered. And so like this whole idea of like society can influence you and you can choose that and stuff like that. In my reality and what I've known, it is complete bullshit. It is just the biggest lie they'll ever tell you in your life. And so like drives me nuts how much they'll make it like, oh, it's a choice, it's a big deal. Like you just have a passing desire, sort of like I have a passing desire to look at porn. Just put the death of your desires, you'll be good. And it's more complicated than that. It's about interpersonal relationships. It's about connection, what you feel comfortable with, and how you're driven. And to say that you're intrinsically evil for it is problematic. And it does cause people a lot of pain and problems. So it's really easy for this guy to say these things. On the spectrum of, prejudice and being cruel to LGBTQ, is he the worst? No, actually, there's so much worse. There's the Matt Powells of the world. There's the Stephen Andersons of the world. There's Westboro Baptists of the world. Still not great. He's still not great. I would put him on the level Matt Slick is at, where it's degrading, and it's definitely they're the kind of people that go, I love gay people. I just hate their sin and their lifestyle, and I would never let my kids around them. You know, those are those kind of people, right? We know and have seen them and stuff like that. So, yeah. I just like to talk about it because other people don't, and I think there are people that have this space that they kind of wrestle with and stuff. So I just talk about it. So I'm actually not upset, by the way. Let me share another one. So this one, oh gosh, you want a heavy hitter? So these are all kind of small fries in the mix. So this last guy, Alan, he he was a bigger channel than Daily Disciple. But this one here is a heavy hitter. So let me find. Hang on, let me make sure I'm in the right screen. 1 second here. Pardon me. It's called. Okay, here it is. This is from PragerU, and we all love PragerU, right? Everybody's a PragerU fan, right? So PragerU isn't necessarily only evangelical. A lot of conservative Jewish folks like PragerU as well. So we're gonna play, and I haven't seen this video. I'm gay, conservative. So what? Here we go.
I'm a Christian, a patriotic American, and a free market, shrink the government conservative, who also happens to be gay. What I mean by that is, my values define me, while my sexual orientation sometimes feels more like, well, a footnote. Literally, in fact. I came out as gay in a footnote in my book, end of discussion. When it comes to my political beliefs, my orientation is only one part of the story.
He already sounds like he's got like a position of privilege to me. Like I have to look up this guy because I don't know anything about him. But when I hear, oh, that's a footnote, it's just so easy for me. I'm thinking, well, you have family that must embrace you. You probably have maybe money. There's some sort of cushion there that we could explore later. But yeah, this is interesting. Interesting.
It's not the totality of who I am. Some unimaginative leftists like to claim that this qualifies me as a self-hating gay person. This is so boring. That intellectual laziness only underscores my point. Far too often, people are sorted by their gender or their skin color or their sexual orientation or any other immutable characteristic that has nothing to do with ideas.
See, I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that it doesn't necessarily mean that he's self-loathing, but what it means is that he's probably putting some other value ahead of the equal rights value. So because we have these package deals in our politics here in the US, and it comes in a package, right? And you can't piece out these packages. If you have some conservative ideas and some liberal ideas and it's kind of mixed in, you sometimes have to do sort of a triage to figure out which of these ideals and values win. So I'm curious to know, my question would be for this guy is, which of these conservative values win out and why don't the liberal values win for this guy? Um, so let's see. I came out as a footnote. What a weird humble brag kind of statement. Yeah, for him, I guess it was so easy. So I have a question of why it was easy. Like, what's your financial status? What's your family unit like? Things like that, because it's just so easy, right? It's such a small big deal, like, for the other people, but for me, no big deal. It's just a small thing.
Or values. To be candid, in my day-to-day life and work, I spend a lot more time thinking and writing about the failures of Obamacare, for example, than I do about LGBT issues, whatever.
So you were so far I'm hearing you are more focused on being anti-universal health care than LGBTQ issues. That's interesting triage you got there.
That term might mean on any given day. Just like any conservative, I want taxes low, the military strong, and don't even get me started on single-payer healthcare or late.
So there are some conservatives that do not want this overly inflated military, actually. So almost all conservatives I've met are pretty no new taxes kind of status, like libertarians, but not all conservatives, and conservative can mean a lot of things, but not all conservatives want an inflated military.
Term abortion. I'm a conservative because when I think about these issues critically, I usually end up on the right end of the spectrum. It's that simple. Here's the thing. I fully recognize how fortunate I am to live in a time and a country where I can be openly gay and live a normal life. And that's in large part thanks to the hard work of gay rights activists who've paved the way for people like me. People who had it.
Thank you for doing the heavy lifting so I can be an asshole to other people.
much harder than I do, and people who likely wouldn't share my politics. I am genuinely grateful to them. But it's a new era now. Why ostracize members of our community who don't toe the left-wing political line? Exit polling shows that in the last 4 general elections, between 14 and 29% of LGBT voters.
Well, I think there's so in my talking to conservatives, the people that are not wanting universal health care, people that are afraid of high taxes, young people, especially young white men who think that they're never going to get sick and die, and why should they pay for anybody else? Really wealthy people that it's is not an issue. Universal health care is not a need for them. They don't really care about it. So they're already wealthy and they can purchase any doctor they want. So who cares? Um, uh, let me think here. Money, 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 money. Don't take my money and high taxes. There's a small percentage of conservatives that are fearful that their money is somehow going to go to abortions if it's universal health care. And there's another small percentage of conservatives that are fearful that there's going to be some sort of Marxist, quote unquote, and I'm using their language, some sort of Marxist death panel that's going to happen. And there's going to be like you know how there's food shortages and lines in Venezuela, that's going to be healthcare, and there's already lines in healthcare already and we pay for it, but you know, like they think that it's going to get worse somehow, and then they start telling us horror stories of how Canada comes to us if they have cancer because Canadians are just suffering so much because their healthcare stinks and they just like buy into all these like fear mongering stuff. Fabius says, I support this guy mostly for the fact that he lives somewhere which is separated from an ocean from where I live. You know, it's interesting too. Conservatives in Europe are very different than conservatives here. So it's kind of funny. Most of these people pay for insurance. Yeah. They all want to take your money. Yep. They're going to take your money one way or the other. It's trying to figure out how you filter that money, right? And how you direct it. I'm Christian. Also, I believe in abortion and the person's freedom to live their life how they choose. You know, more and more Christians are like you, CJ. It's more and more. It's a growing group of people, and I think there's going to be a change afoot in churches soon.
Pulled the lever for the GOP. That's a lot of us. Now, does that mean that we all support every element of the party's platform? Absolutely not. In fact, I know that many conservatives, including some here at PragerU, don't see eye to eye with me on all of these questions. And yet, here I am making a PragerU video, which perfectly illustrates another really important point. Conservatives are often much more tolerant of dissenting views than those who fancy themselves the torch carriers of open-mindedness. Nope. Cross the left on a hot-button social issue, and you're out. You see, some on the left believe that they're entitled to control the thoughts or votes of certain groups of people. Namely minorities and so-called victim groups. For some, it comes down to a cynical calculation. Without the overwhelming support of those groups, the Democrats would win very few elections. That's why the left lashes out so viciously at anyone who wanders off their assigned reservation. I suspect conservative women and Hispanics and African Americans know exactly what I'm talking about. I suspect conservative women and Hispanics and African Americans know exactly what I'm talking about.
I am so sorry that if you couldn't hear me, I'm just stuck on this statement here. Conservative women, Hispanic, and African Americans know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh my God.
Americans know exactly what I'm talking about. The truth is, the left isn't entitled to a damn thing. To paraphrase my co-author and friend Mary Catherine Ham, we didn't get liberated in order to be told by liberal activists precisely what we're allowed to think or how we must vote. A free-thinking, free citizen of a free country is not obliged to believe anything because someone else believes he or she ought to think or ought to vote or ought to
We talk about oughts all the time. I love how he's saying like the left is the only one that's doing oughts. You ought to do this. You ought to care about this. When oughts are on both sides, like there are right and left oughts. This is so stupid. Oh my God.
rank his or her priorities a certain way. Look, I get it. Many other gay people approach these issues and their voting criteria differently, and I respect that. That's their call, even if it's not how I choose to operate. What's the phrase again? Live and let live? Why has that been turned on its head into agree or else? Let's debate issues and stop trying to punish wrong thinking. Like I said, I'm a Christian, a patriotic American, and a free market, shrink the government conservative who happens to be gay. That's how I choose to rank my priorities. You know what that's called? It's called progress. I'm Guy Benson for Prager University.
Wow. He's a Christian. He puts that up top, so we already know that he's motivated by religious things, because he's got that on the top. He's an American, and he's got that next. So sadly, there's this thing called patriotism that is honestly, arguably, a disease that has afflicted many Americans. I generally, I like America. I do. I think we have good and bad in our history. I think we have good and bad and some of our culture now. Um, but there's this weird pride in American right that they really do march around thinking that America is the best country in the world. And when I talk to many of the conservatives I know, when I say, like, do you really think America is the best country in the world? And we talk about education issues or gaps, or we'll talk about, how our fingers are in all these wars and drone attacks and things like that. And they're like, no, 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 no. America's the best country in the world. We just are, and the world would just fall apart if it wasn't for us. They've drunken so deeply from this patriotic well that it's unshakable. And if you are slightly left or slightly skeptical of it, you are now a Marxist. So like you're the other. You're now enemy number one, and it's so frustrating. It's such an indoctrinating thing. So he's prioritized Christian, American, conservative, and then gay kind of falls on the end. So, and it's kind of interesting way of doing that there.
You know what that's called? It's called progress. I'm Guy Benson for Prager University.
Well, Guy Benson, that was interesting. Mm-mm. All right, I'm going to take a moment. I'm actually going to open up the floor if folks want to chit chat and talk at the end of this. And we can talk about these subjects and maybe others if you'd like. I'm going to stop my share screen. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I will be back. One moment.
dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we had gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Bethlehem in Israel, blessed babe was born. Within a manger on this blessed morn, to which his mother Mary did nothing take in scorn. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Our Heavenly Father, the blessed angel came, and unto certain shepherds brought tidings of the same, how that in Bethlehem was born the Son of God by name. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
All right, if you'd like to join, I've put the link in the chat. We can discuss these issues or other issues if you'd like, or just chit chat. I am very fluid. I know that B is going to be going live a little bit later today, so we'll kind of play it by ear how long we'll go here. So I definitely tend to make room when she goes live as well. Or he goes live. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Let's see here. Lucifer is their doctor. You can see a little more further away. Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could try like a different hospital sometimes. After the video, I forgot what the topic was, plastic or paper. I was just watching LGBTQ issues in the church. And yeah, just kind of reviewing some videos. So just I reviewed Jennifer Knapp interview after the Larry King coming out thing. I reviewed Daily Disciple, taking swings at progressive pastors who are inclusive. I reviewed I'm Gay, So What from PragerU. And we watched Can a Homosexual Be a Christian with Alan Parr. So yeah, that's what we have witnessed so far in this travels of the internet here. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. It must be early evening for you, or sort of mid-afternoon, actually, isn't it?
It's 4 p.m. So it's
Yeah.
starting to get, the sun's starting to get low finally, because I'm in the south, so it gets low earlier.
Yeah, oh gosh, by 4 o'clock it's dark here.
Yeah.
Excuse me, just finishing from
I was
some.
listening, well, not listening. I'm reading what's happening with Lucifer, and I'm thinking to myself, like, it's funny how, like, some of the fear mongering of, like, oh my gosh, if we have universal health care, there'll be like wait times, and literally you're paying ridiculous amounts out of pocket, and your wait times are obscene. Like,
Yeah,
it's already like costly, and your wait times are.
yeah. I mean, we have the NHS, and I remember when America was talking about it. Oh gosh, must be about 10 years ago now. I think when Obamacare was, yeah, that was it. When they were looking at the Affordable Care Act, and they were trying to hold Britain up as an example of where it fails, and it's like, did you see the 2012 Olympics where we actually has a segment of the opening ceremony where we're showing off the NHS, literally showing off the NHS,
Yeah.
because it's a bastion of our society. The NHS is great in most ways. It's rubbish in a few. But one thing I can be sure of is I'm not going to die because I'm too poor to have medical insurance.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is we're witnessing people that are dying of things that they shouldn't be dying of, like a simple infection that they could have prevented, or should I get this stitched up or not get stitched up? I've seen like so many blue collar workers get a cut and then not want to go to the doctor because they didn't want to like they don't know if this is going to cost $50 or $5,000. They don't know. So then they
Well,
go, well, I'm going to just forego stitches and I'm going to try to like butterfly bandage this together. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, come on.
look at the amount of people that are scared. They get involved in a car accident or something. It's like, don't call an ambulance
Yeah. Don't
because
call
it's
an
going to cost
ambulance.
them
It's going to
five
be
thousand
expensive.
dollars to get an ambulance.
I'll drive myself. This is fine.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Driving your car with this is fine. It's there's the cartoon "This Is Fine" and everything's burning around them.
Yeah.
It's like the car's on fire, and you're driving it to the hospital.
Yeah. I'm worried for you, Lucifer. If you need something, just keep in touch. I know I'm far away, but I'm at least in the same state. God, I wish I had lots of money sometimes. Like really, I'm just so that I could help people better. Because like I'm struggling like everybody else, right? But like at the same time, like sometimes a lot of hands can really help somebody. A lot of hands.
Yeah.
But you've been suffering for a while. Well, I think Lucifer and I were talking. I had kidney stones for the first time ever. I would say 2 months ago now, maybe about 2 months ago. It was before October. And I went to the doctor and spent like 6 hours in the ER. And I thought I had some sort of like, I thought I had maybe like an upper kidney infection or something. Like it felt like I skipped go and went straight to like a kidney infection where and that's happened to me before, and it's not common, but it's happened to me before where like I will not get like the normal bladder infection symptoms. It just kind of rushes through. So like a UTI that's just gone insane. But no, like it wasn't that. They were like, nope, this is something else. And then it turned out I had a kidney stone, and I was like, oh, well, this is new. That being said, like it passed and it was like fine afterwards. But like Lucifer, you've been suffering for a while now. Like I hope nothing's like stuck or something. Cause like mine passed and I was like, ta-da, I'm pretty normal again for now at least. Well, as normal as I can be.
Yeah, my only real medical problem is I've got a thyroid thing, but I just take a pill for it every day. It seems to be fine. I just get times when I'm like really tired. Yesterday, I kind of was a bit like a cat. I was up for a few hours and napping a lot more of them.
Oh. Y'all are completely right. What's tricky though is like I took this one medication that was supposed to help my blood pressure and drop it down a bit because mine's on that edge of hypertension and not. And this one blood pressure that they gave me, I dropped my potassium to like a zero, like well, not zero, but like it was really, really low, and it made me really sick. So apparently, if you get no potassium, it's really bad. And they're like, oh yeah, this drug is known to zap your potassium. Let's change this. So for whatever reason, for me, I was trying to eat bananas and stuff and bring it back up. I'm like, oh, my potassium.
I was just going to say, eat bananas.
All these things that you often take for granted that you don't think about, like it's kind of funny.
Mm. Are you older than me or younger than me? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm 42.
Okay, you're a bit younger.
A little bit younger. Okay.
Yeah, I'm 46. So 47. Nearly 48, actually.
Oh, wow.
January.
Yeah, I didn't have these problems. Like I would say I had weight gain at 35, and then about the magic 40 is when all of a sudden it's like, congratulations, you're a borderline hypertensive. like sometimes like my blood pressure is unacceptable, and sometimes it is acceptable, and kind of tosses between the two. And I'm trying to get that under control. Right now, it's been under control. I've been doing good, but I am medicated. I'd like to get it under control without having to take medication. So that's the next thing. So losing weight would be in my interest right now.
One of the things that I want to do is lose a load of weight because I put on far too much weight over with COVID. The little bit of time I was going out, I've not been going out, and so it added on the pounds.
Yeah, it does. Stress and being more sedentary than usual and more restrictive than usual. I had lost weight, so I had made it a point because I've always been really lucky most of my life of being skinny. Like and with that, like the idea of actually paying attention to myself and managing my food and stuff like that is just not something I had to worry about. Like, and I'm lucky in that way. But 35 hit, and it was like, congratulations, you have now entered adulting with food.
Yeah.
And paying attention. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, and I just blew up, boom, 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 boom. And then gosh, I would say I had my gallbladder break 2 years ago. So not this last summer, but the summer before that. No, 3 summers ago, I guess now. Anyway, gallbladder breaks. So then I'm like, oh great. So I get that removed, and that's kind of had a slew of problems. But with that, I was like, I'm just gonna try to lose weight. So I started actively trying to lose weight. I dropped like 30 pounds, and I was like, boom, okay, I'm starting to feel better. This is good. And then fast forward, a very stressful, horrible year. My brother passes away, and it was not a good time at all. Weight gain, boom, pandemic, weight gain, boom, like just that combination. And it was like, here's your 30 pounds back. Congratulations. It was just like, whoa, I blew up faster than ever just over the pandemic. My God.
I'm just doing them. Okay, so I just we use these weird thing called stones in the UK, which is 14 pounds to a stone.
Yeah.
So when we met in San Francisco, 2018, I was 280 pounds. I'm 6'4", though. Bear in mind.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as bad as it sounds. Well, over the next 8 months, a year, I dropped it down to 245, which was much better. And then COVID happened, and I didn't weigh myself for a while. And next thing you know, I'm 294 now. And it's
Oh,
like,
you popped back up. Again.
by a lot. I was 20 stone, went down to about 17 and a half, and now I've gone up to 21.
Damn it. And you still bike ride, don't you, or no?
Well, that's the problem. I don't go out very much. You know, the agoraphobia thing, I don't go out much anyway. But having, you know, thanks to lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, there's been no need to go out. And so just that small amount of maybe going out for a bike ride every 10 days instead of every 3 weeks, you know, it may not be a lot, but it, you know, it's cumulative if you don't do certain things. And I think I've also done a bit of comfort eating as well. So, you know, all these things. But I'm trying again to lose the weight. You know, but like I say, I think the problem I've got at the moment, the HRT does cause weight gain. And I think as I'm trying to drop the weight, the HRT is adding it as well. So it's kind of staying stable.
Yeah, that's the other trick is folks that are transitioning and they're dealing with hormones. It does some really weird things to your body, and weight gain's one, and
yeah,
acne. I remember when I went on birth control, that was like congratulations, here's 15 pounds. Like it's just birth control. Like, I was like, what?
Yeah. Why couldn't I put all, you know, why couldn't these pounds that I've added to my body be money? You know, if they were money, I'd be much happier about it.
Well, I mean, wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all want that? Like, we'd be eating more Thanksgiving.
It's a bit of a joke about we use pounds in the UK instead of dollars.
Yeah. Hormones aren't your friends in regard to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain, but like I say, you know, I'm doing better with the hormones though. So, you know, my skin, honestly, my skin is so soft now. And it's everywhere, you know, from the top of my toes to the end of my fingertips, my face, you know, my forehead. I'd have like 2 or 3 horizontal lines, and now I've just got a little wrinkle just above each eyebrow. So, yeah, it's done that. And also mental space has been a bit better as well.
Oh God, I'm getting resting bitch face so bad now. So like on my left hand, my left side particularly, I'm getting this line, this crease that's going down, and I'm like, oh my God. By the time I'm like 70, I'm gonna be like I'm gonna have like a jowl or something. Like this is not good. It's like this line that's starting to like. You want to know where I get these scars? I'm like starting to see a line drop from my left side down, just lower down my chin. I'm like, oh no. But for the most part, I've been pretty lucky. My wrinkles are more minimum. Like some of my friends are actually having a harder time than I am for that. But I've always had raccoon eyes. Always, like ever since I was little, I've just been like a raccoon eyes person for some reason. Like dark circles.
Yeah,
it's one of those things for me. But
my worry is that I think I'm starting to get jowls. You know, on the side of your cheeks.
I think that we were just describing that. Like for me, it starts at the corner of my mouth, and there's like a line that's starting to develop, and I'm like, ah, like oh my God.
You know, it's quite funny that now that I've been sort of looking at myself in the mirror more, as I am, you know, and seeing myself in there, I'm also seeing a bit too much of my mum as well. Because my mum has got a sort of if I relax my face, it's like a wide, sad mouth face. You know what I mean? It's got that downward curve. But I try to sort of like move my muscles in the cheeks a bit so it doesn't look like that, because otherwise I see my mum's mouth in me.
Yeah, that funny thing about genetics, whether you like it or not, you might pick up some of the looks, but you know, it's I think that's the thing is like we're just all going to. I mean, I hate to say this, but we're all going to get older and things are going to happen to us. Like I am so gray, you have no idea. Like
Yeah, one of the things makes me chuckle, and I've sort of, I kind of, I've acquired this goal for myself now. So Hillary Pugh has got what's it called? Crohn's disease, and that's the kind of thing that can shorten your life.
I hope
And
she's okay with you saying that.
yes, it's mentioned before. But the interesting one is that her ambition is to be an old lady, and
Oh,
that's sort of become my own mine now as well.
I am very bad at setting goals.
Well, what I mean by setting goals, I just mean, it's a goal I'm going to achieve.
I'm
So
just
for her,
hoping that
it's
when
like,
I'm old, I can like I don't know, like have my mind like dementia frightens me. Like
yeah, that one. The two things that worry me the most, dementia is one, and the other one is shaky hands. I'm a
yeah,
model maker, and I don't want to be trying to make models with hands that just won't stay still. So that would destroy my hobby, which I get an immense amount of pleasure from.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
There's a
I
lot.
just I spent this evening doing railway modeling work, and I think I did about 9-10 hours straight.
That's the thing with Lucifer's got a point here. The shutdown of medical. Sally, are we going to be yelling again?
Yeah, yes, obviously.
They're having a heated discussion over toy. I think Sally's winning right now. Oh, Raffle's talking back. They do this. And what's funny is you think that they're distressed, right? But then like one of them will bring the toy over and drop it so they can argue again.
Mm.
It's almost like they're my dog and they've come to the internet to argue.
Do you know what? I watch. I'm subscribed to the Dodo. Those.
Oh God, no, not the dodo. Every time I see the dodo, I'm like, no, I don't want to see your videos. No. Oh my gosh, this dog has been burned. Its eyes glued. It's been duct taped on its paws. It was left to die. I'm like, oh my God, I can't.
But then you watch it and you see it's happy, and it's
No, it doesn't make up for it. It's all horrible, all of it.
that does make up for it for me.
Yeah.
And
No more dodo. I don't want your videos. Stop it.
okay. Now I know. Now I know it's you, and it's people like you that do this. Whenever you go to a Dodo YouTube video, there's always, there's like 5,000 likes and 32 dislikes, and you're one of those people that do the dislike, aren't you?
I don't dislike it. I just click past it and I go, why algorithm? Why?
Oh dear. But yeah, it's like, who doesn't like animals getting a happy home?
No, it's not that. It's the persecution porn of it. It's the suffering part of it that I don't want to watch because it upsets me that much.
Yeah.
Like when I look at an animal and I go, this little creature's dependent on you. Like I think of it as really seriously. I've been watching the Tiger King and I'm getting upset and triggered by the Tiger King even. Like this animal's my property and I do with it what I wish. I'm gonna declaw my tigers for so that they can have like cuddle time as little kittens. And he's like, decline tigers is horrible because it's like it's like if you removed your finger before the knuckle, like because now they have to walk differently and everything. Like it's not like it's terrible. It's awful.
Yeah.
And just like oh, it's normal that they're getting eaten by flies. This is fine. And oh, we're gonna just kill this tiger and put it down arbitrarily. It just the horrible attitudes towards animals. This is my property. I do with it what I wish. And it's like
Yeah, that sucks.
you've got this being that is reliant on your care, and in this case really should be in the wild. But like these dogs that are domesticated and stuff like that, I take it seriously. Like my animals are part of my family. Like it's serious to me, and I just don't understand people that abandon animals or abuse them. It's so upsetting to me, and I just can't stand it. Even like small abuses that I see, like the time when Rev threw watermelon and picked up watermelon and threw him and said he was demonic, the cat, and just hurled the cat across the room. That bothered me, but that's not even the
Yeah.
same level, right? Like, so yeah, it upsets me, and I'm just like, no, no, Dodo, I don't want to watch these videos. They upset me because it puts me in a mood. And I go, people are shit, animals are good. But then it's just one of those things. It's a Crime Laura's channel so close to 1,000 subs. You don't have 1,000 subs, Laura?
No, I don't think so. I don't even know
I
how
don't
many I've
either.
got.
I don't either, Nikki. Like, I have so many watch hours. Like, I have watch hours through the wazoo. And what's fascinating is, like, Exile's missing the watch hours, even though she's got, like, way over the subs. And I'm missing the subs, and I'm way over the watch hours. We're, like, flipped from each other. It's odd.
I got 927. But that's okay. I really don't mind. I mean, if people like my stuff, they like my stuff, and they don't, they don't. I'm not. I am the anti-G man in that regard. I don't rate my success on how many subscribers I've got. If there's any element of success, I suppose I might be interested in is, do my friends think it's valuable? Is my opinion on whatever I'm talking about valuable? That's what I care about. I care about what my friends think, not what strangers think.
Yeah. I mean, if I was like really sub focused and I wanted a business, I might model differently, right? But like that's, this isn't a job. This is something I do for fun.
Yeah.
So it's different. But I would like the 1,000 because that 1,000 mark helps with algorithm. That 1,000 mark helps with being able to use your phone on live settings. The 1,000 mark helps with all sorts of things. So like, yeah, it's a nice thing to hit just for those. Everybody thinks monetization, but that's such a small thing. So even like a channel like mine, if I was monetized, I wouldn't be making a lot. So it's that part's irrelevant to me.
Barely even worth it. Yeah. I've got a model railway YouTube channel, and I started it up because I got fed up of seeing the same stuff everywhere. And when I got into the hobby, you'd take a model and you'd dig a hole in the roof and put a proper roof fan and grill, and you'd carve off the lines that on the front are supposed to be handrails and put actual wire ones in there. Drill a couple of holes, bend some wire, stick it in the holes, So it was about modeling, but those skills are fewer and far between now. And one of the things that I like is seeing people push the boat out to challenge themselves, to increase their abilities. I mean, effectively, it's like reading books and learning things. It's the same kind of analogy. And so, like the best example I can think of, where you get a buzz from doing something or buying something new. So with model railways, you go to a store, you buy some model railways stuff, you buy a couple of wagons or a coach or whatever, and you take it home and you stick it on your layout, and that's great until you buy the next one, and the thing that you bought before is now the older model. Now you got a new shiny one instead. Whereas if you buy a plastic kit and you build it and you paint it, you can always, the buzz never goes away, because I did that. I didn't just go to a shop and say, I'll have one of those and 3 of those, please. No, I did the work to make that unique. and just changing the numbers or something. Those are things where you can put your own personal imprint, and it's something that people just don't do very much anymore. And so I want to encourage people to do those things, and those things that provide me with a lot of entertainment. So,
Have you ever considered?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, here we go again. The weird thing is this drama is such fabricated. Like right now, Raffle's running around with her bone, but she ran over to him, shoved her bone in his face, and now is yelling at him for having the bone. And she just pretend bit him. She doesn't actually bite him. She puts her mouth on him and goes, ah, like they're gonna fight, but they don't actually fight. It's just so ridiculous. But the good thing is even though hang on, I'm watching them. They're actually fine. This is Raffle. So Raffle's mad because she took the bone and is running around with it again. And she just spins around in a circle, like keep away, and he just like chases her. But she doesn't move. She's just going around in a circle without moving. So this is what's happening in my house. I'm so sorry.
For anybody who wants to know, unless you want to put it in the live chat for me, it's just youtube.com/cliffjumper24 and you'll find it. Yeah, the model railway stuff is something a bit different. I jokingly refer to myself as a circumcision standard modeler. You go all the way, or you just don't bother.
Yep. I mean the whole. Okay. You're killing me, Sally.
You know what? The one taunting and saying, here's the bone, and then get upset at taking the bone. That almost sounds like the kind of antics that Cheshire gets up to.
So what has happened is they got riled up by Scott, and then now they're like all riled up, and so I had a nice quiet stream, but this isn't gonna unrile itself, unfortunately. So I'm probably gonna have to close the stream. I'm so sorry. I will say that. I will say that B will be live in about less than an hour. So I would definitely check out that stream. It is an open stream hangout. If you would like to join, you have to message B on Twitter. And I'm going to actually sign out for the night just because these dogs are just causing a riot. And with Scott came in, got him riled up, and then just left. I don't know where he went. So they have no outlet. So I guess I better go take them on a walk. So that being said, this is the thing with animals. Sometimes things come up. And same with kids. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of them, get them an outlet because they're just now they're quiet. It's like they know. I swear to goodness, these dogs. I'll try to get them a little bit of exercise. They've already been on an afternoon walk, but maybe they need an evening one because clearly they're just over the top. I'm gonna go ahead and try to share Laura's channel here and B's channel. So this is B's channel. B's gonna be live soon. So again, kind of open hangout style, good conversations, friendly. The rule is don't be a dick. And then let me get Laura's channel.
Oh, that it's already been posted. CJ did it.
Oh, thank you, CJ. Appreciate it. And then CJ's got Laura's channel posted as
Yep.
well. Definitely like and sub and hit that bell, because we know that bell is even hit and miss as it is. But if you don't hit the bell, you're not going to get anything. And appreciate everybody tuning in. And I might see you over at Bees a little bit later after I take care of the doggos. All right. See ya. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Night.